The crash that's broken India's heart, a routine flight turned into a fiery grave just seconds after takeoff. Air India's London-bound flight AI171 crashed only 1.5 kilometers from the runway in Ahmedabad that claimed 241 lives. Only one person survived. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in fact, visited the wreckage site, calling it heartbreaking beyond words. Now, investigators from India, the United Kingdom and the United States are racing to find out what really went wrong. In fact, these were the visuals that surfaced early on today with the Prime Minister inspecting himself the entire site where the plane crashed, the BJMC College, medical students who died in that very spot. Their families are currently aggrieved. They are also being condoled by the government itself, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself at the spot, taking cognizance of the situation. The plane was a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, brand new, top of the line. It was flown by two seasoned pilots, Captain Sumit Sabarwal and co-pilot Clive Kundar. With over 9,000 hours of flying experience between two of them, they were said to be expert pilots. But less than a minute after takeoff, something went terribly wrong. The plane was carrying nearly 100 tons of fuel, a full load of the long haul to London. Seconds into that flight, the cockpit there sent out a mayday signal, and then complete silence, no further radio response. The plane rose to just 625 feet and then quickly dropped. Those are the images that came in soon after the crash. Footage shows it flying very low over homes before vanishing behind trees and exploding in a distance. In fact, CCTV has confirmed that the plane was airborne for literally 30 seconds before it crashed. So what really happened? Experts are now looking at four possibilities. One could be loss of lift. The plane took off, it climbed, but then lost air support. Two, flaps were not deployed. Suspicion is that flaps were not deployed the way it should have. In fact, flaps helped the plane lift off. If they weren't set, then there's a huge problem. Possibly a human error could be suspected here. Landing gear stuck. Now, the gear didn't retract, which may have forced the flaps too early to come out, leading to a stall. Dual engine failure, which is rare but possible. Ahmedabad's airport also at the same time is also notorious for birds. So a bird strike can also cause engine failure or engines to shut down. So these are the possible angles that experts are currently looking into. Investigators particularly are observing. There's talk of whether the RAT, R-A-T, a system which is a backup air turbine, where if two engines fail, this RAT system basically kicks in to help the flight stay afloat. Was that triggered in time? Now, that's something that the investigation will reveal. One pilot told news agencies there that engine failure can also happen if at all fuel gets contaminated or blocked, starving the engines. That could also be one of the reasons. And then there's the weather conditions. Ahmedabad, as we know, is scorching 40 degrees Celsius. In such heat, planes need more flap support and stronger thrust. Even the tiniest error in flap settings, especially with a fully loaded plane, can really be fatal. Now, the flaps are manually set by pilots, as far as we know, and go through multiple checklists, verifications. If at all they weren't set, then that could likely be a human error. But again, we're still piecing it all together. The black box, as we hear, and the cockpit video have both been recovered. Until investigators decode every single one of that second of that footage, we're not able to pin the blame on one such reason. In fact, many painful questions that still persist. 241 grieving families who are currently waiting for answers. I'm joined in tonight by Group Captain retired V.N. Jha, aviation expert and senior scientist, aerospace. We also have Captain Kishore Chinta, Chief Pilot, Sirius India Airlines Private Limited. Squadron leader retired, Deepthi Kala, aviation expert. Thanks very much. I will start with Group Captain V.N. Jha, who's an aviation expert himself, a senior scientist. Sir, your take on the way the flight dropped and dipped in barely 30 seconds after takeoff. I know every one of us have managed to go into multiple layers of reasons to why this may have happened, but your sharp observation, You're looking at the plane takeoff. It's flown by expert captains. There were two people who had miles that they had flown. Their records shown, in fact, suggests that they were one of the finest pilots. And yet something like this happened. Could you call this human error? Of course, we can't call out the investigation now, but your views on this?
Nabila, very good evening to you. And once again, I convey my condolences to the families who have lost their near and dear ones. It's an inconceivable loss for everyone, even for the nation. Now, coming back to your question, look, since yesterday we have been deliberating a lot, and often we have been deliberating on non-issue because speculation must not be indulged at this stage. And today, at least two good news have been there. One is that the black box and the CVR cockpit voice recorder has been found. So there is no room for any speculation. Everything will be absolutely crystal clear. And secondly, there is a living passenger. Yesterday, lot many people had asked me a question whether the accident was insurvivable. I had said in no uncertain terms, being aerospace medicine specialist, being a human factor specialist, I have conducted about 7 fatal aircraft accidents. So in no uncertain terms, I said no, aircraft was not unsurvivable. And that one single passenger who have walked out free from there just shows that the aircraft impact, whatever way it was there, however way it was there, it was survivable. If one person has survived, there is no reason why other persons should not have survived. But of course, there are plethora of variables here which would have come into play that they couldn't escape from the burning aircraft. Now, coming back to what could have been the reason for this. Look, I again reiterate that we must not speculate, especially when all these vital clues, vital evidence pieces have been recovered from the crash site, so that we go into this. But the two video clips, what you are just now, one you are just now playing onto your screen, and the second one, what is from a novice bystander who has taken just about 30 seconds or 25 seconds below the crash. These two are the pieces which tell us a lot of story, which usually keep the investigation team in the dark. There is one fact very clear here, that the aircraft, after it has started, after it has taxied, after it has gone to the shoulder of the runway, after it has lined up, after it has put the brakes and raised the RPM, and then all those vital parameters having checked and the brakes released, has gone on to the takeoff roll. And takeoff seems to be slightly further onto the runway. I believe it is just about a few hundred meters short of the threshold of the runway that it has taken off. But then the temperature was slightly on the higher side. Usually at the higher temperatures, lifts are much sluggish. That we can understand. Another thing that my eyes have caught is that the rate of ascent is slightly sluggish than I would have thought, that even at this hot temperature, with such a very powerful engines
Yeah.
at 100%, the aircraft should have gone normally onto its ascent course. That I failed to notice here in this particular video clip. And just few seconds later, further climb has been arrested. It continues there at that, and about 4 or 5 seconds later, now it has started coming down. One thing you can notice, that the nose up attitude is still there. The pilot is in full control of the aircraft. There is no wing drop on the other side. It is the level flight. It is coming there as if you see from the side in the other video clip, it looks that aircraft is coming for a touchdown somewhere. Exactly the same posture, same position, usually around the same speed also. So was the pilot looking for a small stretch of the ground, whether he could have crash landed the aircraft so as to deploy all the things and open the emergency doors and everything, so that maximum passenger could have evacuated from there before the ball of fire would have caught them. So this was one questions with us. These are all visibles. There is not a single shade of speculation in the things that we have told you. I have told you.
No,
Second thing,
we're all entirely speculating at this point. There are multiple angles that are being considered and looked into, but we hear officials from Boeing are going to be landing into India. They are going to be part of this investigation. The black box has been recovered. I'm not too sure. For a common man, sir, if I could also give our panelist Kishore Chinta a chance here. Captain Kishore Chinta, how integral is the black box? As we know, the black box has been recovered. We're all waiting for a final report based on the black box recordings. In common, simple language, what does the black box hold?
So in common simple language, the black box has two components. One is the cockpit voice recorder, which will have up to 2 hours of flight recording of all the communications, whether between both the pilots or between the pilots and the ATC, and all the other warning sounds within the cockpit. Any audible sounds will all be recorded in the cockpit voice recorder. Whereas the flight data recorder will have close to 1,000 parameters. Every single parameter, what was the heading, what was the speed, with a timestamp would be there. You can practically, there is software to reconstruct the entire flight from the startup, from the time the battery was switched on till the time the crash happened. So the entire flight can be reconstructed based on the FDR data. Everything would be there. What was the engine thrust when the aircraft rolled for takeoff? What was the acceleration, whether it was normal, whether it was the climb rate was normal after the wheels left the ground. Everything will be there in the flight data recorder. And the AAIB in India is capable of downloading the flight data recorder and the CVR data in our own lab in India, unlike before. So within no time, probably over the next 24 hours, the data would be retrieved, and they will start analyzing every bit of information which is available, which will make it amply clear to us whether the engines were producing ample thrust, whether the engines shut down, whether there was disruption of anything which caused the engines to not provide takeoff thrust for this flight as it climbed out once the wheels left the ground. So the flight data recorder is probably the single most significant part of the aircraft accident investigation.
A quick word from Squadron Leader Deepti Kala, who's an aviation expert herself. Deepti, from the looks of it, it appears as if the flight took off for good. It had a good takeoff. There was no issue while taking off. But in 30 seconds, it looked like as if there was an issue, slightly wobbly, and then it stagnated for a split second before it went down. In your expertise, what would you see as the fault here?
Yeah, Nabila. So as such, we have looked at all the angles that could have possibly gone wrong while this aircraft has gone down. However, these points are not to be missed, that it has taken a longer time to take off, approximately 100, 200 meters only before the threshold. So that's an important point. And as the videos are not very clear, and that is where we are making the assumptions as far as towards the the climb of the aircraft, that in which position were the flaps were, and a lot of speculations are going on for the landing gears also. Now, landing gears are usually taken up at 400, 500 feet. This is where around 600 feet the aircraft was already at. So there are a lot of things, there's a story getting built up, and that is why the reports are eagerly waited for, because lot of things, like simultaneously a lot of things have happened. See, if there was an emergency, then the pilot is not will not 100% focus on retracting the landing gears. So we don't know if the landing gears were stuck, or had it been some other emergency. Of course, 100% of the chances that the pilot is not bothered about the landing gears, then he has to cater to the then emergency in the cockpit. Now, if we talk about the flaps, so if the flaps are still in not in the right configuration, right, but then the engines are working or not, we are not sure. So a lot of stories can be put up here, and that is why critically analyzing the entire FDR data. FDR data is also not like, it has 1,000 plus parameters, and as sir also said that we can configure the entire flight from the start till the time it came down. So analyzing everything, it takes time. So the exact factors which have led to this unfortunate incident will is 100% going to take time, but then probably through the cockpit voice recorder we could at least get to know that if by any chance there is a clear cut talk between the pilots that
Yeah.
has happened and that can indicate that what has exactly gone wrong, then probably we can have some the
Yeah, we have
basic
better
information of
understanding,
why
but
the
there's also a
problem
lot of
gets
talk around a bird strike. That a bird could have struck the plane. It's not unheard of. It's not unusual. We hear Ahmedabad Airport, in that sense, is notorious for that. Lots of bird attacks that have happened there, or bird strikes that have happened there. Nothing as fatal as this one, or we still don't know if this is the reason. But what's the probability of a bird strike pushing for both engines to fail? A rarest of the rare possibility we hear, but it is a possibility.
So Nabila, I have talked about the bird hit thing with the experts also,
Yeah.
people who probably work with Boeing also, and having worked at the airport for the 10 years. See, bird hit does not seems to be, have taken place here. Why? For two very probable reasons. One is that if both the engines are hit by the bird, okay, so there is no flock of birds I can see there in the video very clearly. As far as I'm only considering the video here, okay, and the kind of visuals I can see. Of course, the video is not with 100% high definition video, but then as far as the possibility goes. Now, second thing is that we have enough people taking care of the bird activities in and around the airport. If you see bird hits happening, it happens mostly, if you look at the data also, little at a higher altitude, not at this stage, because here people are visually also they are taking care through binoculars, and then people have their those guns also which are used to fly off the bird activities in and around. So these two reasons, and also we have not seen any flare coming from the engines if the bird hit has happened. So we've not seen that. So again, you remember the Hudson case wherein it was on an altitude. The aircraft that time was on a good altitude, and that is when the bird hit had happened. A very rare case wherein both the engines were hit, and then it was a very fortunate incident wherein the pilot landed the aircraft at the Hudson River. But then here,
It's possible.
uh, it seems very less likely, Nabila, very less likely, like 0.001%, I would say.
Captain Jha, would you want to corroborate that?
Nabila, you can call me group captain.
Yes, sir.
Usually, that is the rank we have in the Air Force.
Sir.
I congratulate Deepthi. She has given you a beautiful description of the possibilities that can happen. Look, the bird. Has anyone seen the flock of bird at that thing? In the air traffic control, if you sit on there are the binoculars. Both the threshold of the runway is continuously being monitored. In the civil air traffic control, it happens slightly less. In the military air traffic control, there are bird watchers specially positioned in the air traffic control to look for it. So, was there any report? Has anyone seen a flock of bird which was at the threshold of the runway? If none has seen it, why speculate right now? Look, today, when the FDR is there, if there was a bird hit, not leave even FDR. In the engines, if there was a bird hit, the engine will cry out that story that yes, here is a bird which is in the engines. Both engines, possibility is very, very rare. At this altitude, smaller birds are there. In this engine, smaller bird will be sucked out and, pissed out of everything, and it will not be even fed by the aircraft. Such a massive engine is this. But yes, possibilities are there that it may damage any of the uh, compression blades. That possibility is always there. So look, when we do the aircraft investigation, we keep every possible reasons for the crash onto our table, and we shift out those reasons only after we get a positive input that this was not the cause. Then only we remove from our table. Now coming first to first, Usually, we categorize all Air Force aircraft accident into three categories or so. Civil aircraft, we add one more: organizational factors. There are human factors, there are technical factors, there are the support services, and the organizational factors. Everything will be covered in this. Human factor could be the pilot factor. It could be even the engineers who would have overlooked certain aspects of the maintenance or some shortcoming in the aircraft. It could be the support services. In that, even the air traffic fuel, ATF, what is in the question right now, that even can come into the loop in that. There are many things in that. And last but not the least is the organizational factor. If any airline is running short of the aircraft, he may ask his pilot, he may pressurize his pilot that, okay, this is a small a problem, you can take care of it. It doesn't cause any safety, break any safety norms. He may be pressurized there. So these are the organizational factors. Under these four categories, we look for all accidents. Now, coming back to what we look here into it. This is the clip. It is telling you most of the story. And I must compliment the pilot who has managed to keep his composure. He knows he is going to crash. He knows that after takeoff, he has just got that few seconds in which he can continue flying the aircraft. He could have even mishandled the aircraft and stalled it there itself. He would have dropped like anything. He could have, could not have managed to keep the nose up. He could have made nose down, and then even it would have been worse even if it was survivable onto a plain area of the Straits of the Land. So I compliment the pilot. He has tried possibly his best, but he was unfortunate that there was not a piece of flat land available before him. He crashed into the hostel of the medical college, and thereafter the all stories are before you.